Crema is the thing we all tend to chase. When we first get into espresso, we decide this is the hallmark of a really tasty coffee. It tells us that we've dialed in properly and that we've got everything going our way. But what if crema is actually ruining your coffee? What if there's a better way to experience espresso than with that beautiful golden foam on top? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about just that. If you've been in coffee for long at all, you know that crema is not necessarily a difficult thing to achieve. You don't need a nice machine, you don't need nice coffee, you don't need a nice grinder. You just need darker roasted coffee that's pretty fresh off roast. And you can achieve it with a blade grinder if you're patient enough. You can achieve it with a $20 espresso machine if you're patient enough and know how to use it. So, is it actually good? Is it actually a marker of a good coffee?
As you can see, the vessels will hold the crema up while allowing only the best parts of the espresso to flow through. This is really cool. And this tool here will help revolutionize how espresso will be served and consumed around the world.
Recently at the World Barista Championship, Michael Harris from the Philippines actually worked in tandem to create a product called Better Vessel, I believe. It's essentially like this. This was made by someone and sent to me 8 months ago, but now they have something where it's similar to the base of a Hario switch. You have a ball kind of inside, you put your espresso in there, you set it on the cup, the ball lifts, the liquid, the dense liquid goes through just like this, looks like soy sauce, and the crema stays, boom, right inside of the vessel. And he served judges this crema-less coffee, saying that it tasted better without the crema because it kind of muted the delicious flavors of the coffee.
Coffee lovers like you and I can now pull longer, higher extraction shots without the bitter harshness of espresso, of crema.
That's a big claim, especially when people have been fawning over this beautiful crema for years. You have different espresso blends named after crema in order to really catch the attention of the market. So, crema, what is it? Crema is not the flavor, it is not the intensity, it is not the body of the espresso. It's a foam. It is a foam that sits on top that is largely filled with CO2, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide on its own is flavorless, but it triggers the same receptors that wasabi and different spicy things do in our tongue, which can increase the perception of bitterness. So it is very common for someone to perceive carbon dioxide or carbonic acid, which is what happens when carbon dioxide enters water, as bitter. Typically, Brazilian coffees, even if they're really darkly roasted, have a much higher concentration of citric acidity in it than most washed Kenya coffees. Now, this has been proven by Morton Munchow and Coffee Mind Academy. This is not new science, but the fact of the matter is people perceive the acidity as much higher in something like a Kenya coffee than they do in a dark roasted Brazil. Carbonated water, for instance, and say that's really bitter. Now, of course, it's not bitter chemically, but it's bitter perceptively. The perception of it is bitter. Crema, in addition, it has a lot of hydrophobic compounds that are less dense than what else is in the espresso rise to the surface. This includes a lot of phenolic compounds, guaiacol, syringol, and methylguaiacol. Now, this final one gives these dark roast coffee those smoky tastes, those burnt tastes, etc. The more and more you roast a coffee, the more they're produced. The lighter the coffee, the less they're produced, but they're still there. And guess what? Crema wants to trap them because they're hydrophobic. They want to rise to the surface. So these phenols that tend to be more bitter, less desirable, are up there near the top. In addition to all those, you have microfines get trapped there. They don't want to sink. They want to rise to the top. Now, of course, at the end of a cup, you'll see that there are grounds in your cup on occasion. Now, the grounds are much denser. I'm talking about these microfines that want to live up in the top of the crema. These things don't really want to sink. They live up there. These are cell wall fragments. These are little microparticles that are shaved off the coffee, make it through your basket and into your cup. They don't want to sink. They sit up there with the bubbles, which are literally just bits of coffee, which is definitely going to be very bitter. But also, you have melanoidins, which has been historically attributed to bitterness in coffee, so you have more of those that tend to be trapped up here. Then, of course, you have emulsified oils, which a lot of people attribute to body, which is understandable. Polysaccharides and the lipid count does attribute some to body. It's foam. Yes, it's going to give you a certain tactile experience. Does that mean it's going to be heavier on the tongue than crema-less espresso? Not necessarily, at least not chemically. So that is the science going on inside of the crema. It doesn't sound that great on paper. It looks beautiful. It's a marvel to look at. It's a marvel to achieve. And it makes you feel good when you're new to espresso to have that thick crema. but is it actually good? Now I'm going to stop you right here. I know you keep eyeballing this thing that I used at the beginning of the video and you're like, what the heck is that? I mean, it's very simple. You need it to be kind of a circular type of shape in order for it to be facilitative to the dripping outage of the espresso through the nozzle on the bottom. It's very sophisticated, very complicated, but what's very important is that it's a spherical style of shape. You don't want it to be a trapezoid. You don't want it to be a quadrilateral. You don't want it to be a square space. Is the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace is a wonderful online tool that you can use in order to build up your business, whatever entrepreneur thing you have in your life. Guess what? Squarespace makes it easy for you. Get online, you use one of their incredibly beautiful aesthetic templates, and what do you have? You have a beautiful website that even a dum-dum like me can create. I've made multiple websites on Squarespace over the years. It's what I choose. It's what I have chosen for genuinely over 10 years now. Guess what? You can have your own online community, your own online store, your own online whatever you want with the link down below, which is www.squarespace.com/Lance Hedrick. You go there, you click that link, you're going to get a fun discount. You help your entrepreneurial spirit, you help your creative prerogative, and you make sure that you don't build a square-spaced one of these, you build a spherical one. Click that link and it'll be a good time. Anyway, let's use this spherical again, not square, not quadrilateral, not triangular, not pyramidal, and we're gonna go pull some cremaless espresso. I don't know, it's just up to you. This is something that has been brought up for many years, like all the way back to 2006, 2007, and those times when these barista competitors were being interviewed, a lot of them were talking about coffee tasting better without crema on top. And I've got to imagine in home barista forums back then, this topic's been broached. In fact, I've talked about it 3-4 years ago when I started YouTube. In fact, I believe it was in my second ever video I talked about how you could scrape off crema and taste it, and the probability is you'll enjoy it more. I'll do a test with darker roasted coffee. That's actually called Crema Bar. And the idea there is it's got a lot of crema. And then we'll do a lighter roasted coffee to see how big the difference is between a darker roast and a lighter roasted coffee. And when the crema gets close, I'm going to turn it off. So we're just getting the densest part of that espresso. And wait, a little bit more. Yep. All right, crema's right at the tip. Maybe just... Boom. Oh, yeah, there we go. That right there is all crema. Look at that. That's absurd. That's like syrup. Or not even syrup, that's like sauce. Wow. Okay, so there we have it. And then this one has the crema. So what I'll do is I'm going to take a sip without. I mean, we get the typical kind of flavors with it. It obviously wasn't as fluffy on the tongue. One of the things I actually really enjoy about this coffee is how fluffy it is on the tongue. And we don't get that because the crema's not there, right? But it is, I mean, it's very balanced. It's much sweeter than normal, to be honest with you. The body, the weight of it is actually the same, if not heavier. Yeah, so anyway, let's take a sip of this without stirring it, then one with stirring it, just... Okay, immediately that's way more bitter. Let's get this nice and stirred up, because they say to stir your espresso, which, you know what? Now that I think about it, is probably not ideal. When you stir your espresso more, you are quickly allowing all of that carbon dioxide to enter the liquid to make even more carbonic acid, which does make it more acidic, but increases your perception of that harshness, that dryness, that intensity that can be interpreted as bitterness. But anyway, let's just see if that theory rings true, at least on this one. Yeah. Now, honestly, I can taste slightly a more acidity to it, but it also is more sharp and a little bit more bitter, if that makes sense. Let's go back to this. Way smoother in comparison. Like, that's wild. Getting crema is genuinely not difficult, so it's not a sign of good espresso. Could it be for your specific setup? If you're not getting crema, it's not a good shot? Maybe. Maybe you have always super fresh coffee and you have... and the times you're not getting good coffee is because you have too coarse of a grind and you're not getting too much crema. Sure, maybe you have found in your particular setup that the presence of crema means it's a good shot, but the vast majority of the times that has no correlation to whether it's a good shot or not. Now, for fun, I'm going to just try a scoop of the crema. This is just straight crema. Look how thick that is. Oh, it is just straight smoke. This is not a remove your crema or don't remove your crema. This is a try it. If you don't like smoky, maybe it's good to remove some of the crema. If you do like smoky, maybe you really want a lot of the crema, and maybe that's something you're looking for. Darker roasted coffees with that kind of, with the extra phenolic count as far as the style of phenol that's in there. We're going to do the same thing with a really light roast to see if there is a similar reaction. What I can tell you, though, is before when I've scraped, I have preferred scraped or partially scraped shots, but this should be a much more accurate way of removing crema and only getting the denser part of this in order to maintain as much of that original character of the espresso, sans a lot of the phenols, microparticles, a lot of the CO2 and carbonic acid, etc., etc., etc. So let's get that going. All right, so now we've got a coffee Bekele Natural from Coffee Collective. We're going to go ahead and remove crema. So again, I'm going to just make sure I only get the dense part. And there we go. Woo, that was close. So we just have the crema, which isn't much. The lighter you go, the less crema is going to be created, the less CO2 is created in the roasting process. This is wanting to tilt. I'm just going to lay it there. And then we have the one with crema. So let's go ahead and take a sip of the crema-less. Wow. That is sweet, floral, fruity. That's fantastic. All right, no stir. As you would expect, there's actually a lot of drying on this. A lot of drying. That's the first thing I notice. But let's see. I'm going to stir it up, as is always suggested, with a little bit of turbulence in there. Here we go. It's still nice. This one, however, a lot more salinity kind of taste. There's like a salty kind of taste, which would normally point to under extraction, but they're extracted the same. A lot more astringency, a lot more bitterness kind of on the tongue, a lot more bitter perception, I should say. It's more fuzzy, is what I would say. So with this one, you get a much clearer snapshot of the flavors, whereas on this one, it's got kind of a astringent acidity, like an acrid acidity. You've got a little bit of sweetness. You have the body, the tactile's fine, but it is, you can tell those receptors, those pain receptors, like when you eat wasabi, are being attacked. There's not much. There's a lot less than the other coffee. And this is fresh coffee. Again, even with this really light coffee, it's not as intense, obviously, as the darker roast, but there is a smoky burnt something. Super interesting to do that. It has a noticeable difference on the final cup, obviously. Try this out at home. Is crema ruining your coffee? Maybe. Not all the time. For me, crema bar, I need that crema for it to even be a little enjoyable. Whenever it doesn't have that, there's not much redeeming qualities about it because I don't love the flavor profile. I like that foamy, intense texture. But with lighter roasted coffees, get crema out of here. I'll do bottom paper filter. I'll take that crap out. My life's made. That's why kind of like why I like soup. Ain't no crema. We're not generating the pressure for it. So anyway, for those of you crema purists, get outside of your comfort zone. Give this a try. For those of you who already hate crema, maybe this is a great way to play around with that. You don't need to go buy the new flashy, like whatever people are trying to market. People are out there 3D printing things. You can transfer from one cup to another. Of course, anytime you mix it up, it's going to allow some of those less dense things to get into another vessel, but in any event, it's something that you can play around with. That's a super cheap or free thing to play around with at home. Something like this, there are things with little nozzles all over the place you can buy, like in chemistry sets and stuff. I was pulling directly into this so that the densest stuff I didn't have to transfer cups. So pulling into a shot glass and transferring it, you're going to cause it all to mix up. Yes, crema still rises, but potentially microfines and some of the phenols kind of don't have time to get back to the surface before you start draining it. So I pulled my shot directly into this to make sure it was as separated as possible when I released it. Have fun with it. Scrape. Do whatever you want to do. Just have fun and brew something tasty. That's the most important thing out of all this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring the video. But if you enjoyed it, of course, please hit the like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel so much. And that's all I really got to say. So regardless of crema or no crema, regardless of espresso or filter, regardless of expensive machine or cheap machine, there's one thing I do hope, and that is that you brew something tasty today. And cheers.